Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to CaneSport right now, as it's signing day, and we review the events of the day and the new members of the Miami Hurricanes. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, on a very busy day. Probably our busiest day of the year, Matt, when you put it all together and everything that goes on and on signing days, and it's very exciting. I mean, it's tiring, but it's very exciting to see new faces come into the program, new talents come into the program, and it's been one of the more bizarre ones, though, at the same time, because of the coaching change, the short window that Mario Cristobal has had to recruit, the small numbers right now in the class. But I think you would agree that the one thing that we could stress to everybody is that this is not an atypical year. This is just the beginning of recruiting. This is we're maybe midway through the second quarter right now of what this is going to end up being by February. You still have another cycle of recruiting going to the next signing day in February. You still have the transfer portal that's going to come into play here. So, Matt, all in all, still a long road and a lot of hard work ahead.
Yeah, it was funny when Mario said during the press conference that he learned that he doesn't need to sleep for 8 straight days. And I thought he was joking, but I don't think he was joking. Like, he didn't laugh, he didn't smile. He said, I learned how to not sleep for 8 straight days. I didn't know I could do that. I mean, I don't think it's humanly possible. I think maybe he thinks he was awake, but he was actually sleeping. Like, sometimes, how you wake up and you thought you were never sleeping in the first place, but maybe you were. Maybe it was one of those deals. I don't know. But he certainly wasn't dreaming today when they landed Jaden Harris and Nigel Kelly, which were really nice additions. Both of them were actually previous commitments, but the world didn't know about it. And you never know with these silent commitments. Aren't really commitments to me anyway until they sign. There's a reason they're silent usually, and other people are pushing for them. So it was nice to get those guys. And Mario's off to a good start. He did say over and over again during his press conference today that including transfers, he expects 16 to 20. So not that many more.
16 to 25 is what.
No, he said 16 to 20 numerous times. Yeah, including transfers, he said. So, and he did say once that maybe it can go higher than that to 25, but he did stress 16 to 20. He's got 8. So I think that's a good number, because you don't want to push up against that 85 cap too close. You don't want to have too many freshmen and sophomores next year to where you can't take a huge 2023 class, which is stacked with talent, and when he gets a whole year to recruit those guys. So I think that's a smart approach.
Wait till the off-season training program starts, and wait till some of these guys see what a difference it is from what they've done in the past. Guarantee there's going to be some attrition. I don't think numbers is going to be a problem for Mario Cristobal. I don't see him reaching for players, but I don't see him worrying about numbers either. So we'll see how that plays out. So let's talk a little bit about recruiting. Let's talk about signing day. We'll tell some stories and things like that. But I did want to start with Eric's comment here about the Dillard ceremony. And oh my God, man, it's like people kept moving around and the speeches were endless. And then like about 40 minutes into it, and they hadn't even really started anything yet. The low battery light comes on the phone I was shooting with. So I had to scramble and find a cord to charge the damn thing so that we wouldn't. I mean, can you imagine if that thing had gone dark after people were watching it for an hour waiting to see what Nigel Kelly was going to do, and the video went dark because the damn phone died? And that was something else, that Dillard ceremony. It started that I walk into the auditorium at Dillard, and I walked in thinking Nigel Kelly is going to be in this signing class. And I walk up to the stage, and I'm getting ready to take a picture, and I see that somebody put a Florida Gator hat right in front of where Nigel Kelly is going to sit on they had a table for each player, and they had a Florida Gator hat in front of him, clearly to throw everybody off. It was like their way of playing a joke on everybody. Ha ha ha! Everybody over at Dillard, thank you very much. We enjoyed it, but no. So now people are wondering what he's going to do, and then you got to sit there for over an hour waiting to find out. And it was something else. I mean, the principal's speech was epic. without a doubt. I don't know what she thought she was. I think she thought she was giving a graduation speech as opposed to a signing day speech. But yeah, it was something else. And then so Nigel Kelly, he announces for Miami, and he also introduces the fact that he already has an NIL deal. He whips out his trade. He's got a Nigel Kelly trading card already and a poster, a Nigel Kelly poster. And Matt, this is a new day and age, man. When kids, the minute they sign, are already promoting their NIL deals. But that's smart, in my opinion. You know, it's a new day and age.
I'm not sure it's actually an NIL deal. He said it was, but then I guess it was his mom was like, no, it's not an NIL deal. He's just promoting his own brand.
That's an NIL deal.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Even if you're promoting your own brand, it's still NIL. It's name, image, likeness.
Right. Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah. But she didn't seem to think.
You might be your own company. You might.
Right. Well, that's what I think. I don't think there's a company representing him. I think maybe he has somebody who's helping guide him along or whatever. I don't know. Whatever it is.
Well, I think Elijah Roberts has done that too. I've seen some Elijah Roberts branding out there. Some kids are forming their own companies, so to speak, and finding ways to promote themselves and their own lines of merchandise and things like that. It doesn't all have to go through a third party. It doesn't all have to go through an agent. Pretty interesting. Louis Delgadillo wants to know if Mario's the alpha as we expected. Dude, this guy's been here 8 days, okay? He reeled in Nigel Kelly. Trust me, Nigel Kelly might be the best player in the state of Florida. I know he's not ranked that way by rivals. I'm telling you, Nigel Kelly might be the best player in the state of Florida, and we're going to see that once he steps on the football field. And he doesn't come to Miami if Mario Cristobal's not here. I think Wesley Saints would have come either way. And we'll talk a little bit about this in a minute as we go through the signing day class. But he's already making an impact. I guarantee you there will be transfers coming through sooner rather than later. And I guarantee you the other thing he did was 5-star offensive lineman Julian Armella, who everybody's been assuming was going to go to Florida State. Mario and Alex Mirabal talked him into waiting until February. That's alpha work, right, Matt? I mean, would you agree? Like a 5-star? He may or may not be a 5-star. We'll see. I know we've been wondering about that through the month, but regardless, he's a 5-star in the rankings and a pretty good prospect. And they talked him out of signing today. Would you consider that alpha? I mean,
look, I don't know if they're the only ones that talked him out of doing it. I think there's a lot of problems at FSU that probably help. I think LSU and Florida had a lot to say also. Like when schools gang up on a recruit and say, here's why you shouldn't sign, that plays a role. And especially when there's problems that you can see at FSU, when a kid picks Jackson State over Florida State.
Oh my God.
Before you're making your decision, it's a culmination of factors. Like, I'm not going to say it was only Mario Cristobal that made Julian Armella decide to wait, because if that was the case, the kid may as well just commit to Miami right now. It's a myriad of factors. FSU's got a lot of problems. At this point, I find it hard to believe Armella winds up at FSU, just because if he was going to, he would have signed. That's just the way, we've seen this thing play out so many times. It's just very rare that a kid sort of thumbs his nose at a program that he said, I'm going to sign with you on Wednesday, and then doesn't, and then winds up signing there. It just very rarely happens. I think Miami has a really good chance with him. I'm not going to say that it's because of Mario Cristobal the kid waited, but I do think now you get him on campus in January, you sell him on the program, Alex Mirabal works his magic, and boom, I especially with the Miami offensive line situation, like they didn't sign a single offensive lineman, and there's such an opportunity right now for a guy like an Armella or a guy in the transfer portal, or and they have other offensive linemen they're looking for in the February class, and there's such an opportunity to sell these guys right now on what they did at Oregon with the offensive line, with Alex Mirabal's track record. Who wouldn't want to come to Miami right now as an offensive lineman with Tyler Van Dyke in this offense? It's going to make you look good as an offensive lineman. So there's a lot of opportunity for sure.
All right. I was real disciplined there. I didn't interrupt you. I'm going to go out on the hook, and I'm going to say that I think Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal had an enormous amount to do with Julian Armella not signing today, because that is what I heard. And I'll also go out on the limb and say that he is an alpha, and he's proving that he's an alpha. And part of that was when he called you out at the press conference today for having gray hair.
I wish he had gray hair so I could say it right back at him.
He's got a few. You got to look close. He's got
bare. You're not going to see it on the camera. I'm not going to say, "Oh, you have gray hair too." It's look.
No, but let me tell you something. All these coaches, okay, I'm going to let the secret out of the bag here for everybody watching. All these coaches dye their hair. Okay, so they could be all gray, and you're not going to see it because they all use that. What's that thing called, man? The hair coloring thing, man.
I obviously don't use it, so why would I know?
No, but there's like a brand that everybody uses.
Something for men. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that. Wait, what did you say?
Something for men or something.
Yeah, something for me. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so regardless, they use hair dye. Okay, because they don't want to look old when they go out recruiting and things like that. And
yeah, just for men. That's what somebody is supposed
to. Just for men. Yes. So yeah, so you know they're probably gray. The way those guys work, the way they don't sleep, the way they eat like crap. Except I'm sure Mario doesn't. Mario looks in pretty good shape, man. I mean, he looks like he takes care of himself. I mean, he does not, for a guy that works, 18 hours a day and God knows what he eats and things like that. I mean, I'm sure he pumps a lot of iron. I mean, he looks fit. He looks like he could literally go out and play in the bowl game in El Paso if you really wanted him to, quite frankly. But yeah, you don't usually know if they have gray hair because they usually dye it. But anyway, so Michael Ross says that he wasn't able to follow the day. So Michael, we are going to go through the day right now for you. But he knows that it's big because Matt's wearing a collared shirt and no alligators. So that means it was a big day. Yeah, Matt did. He went to campus. It's the first time seeing Mario in probably 20 years or so. So big day. It was a very big day for everybody, Matt included. And I was making the rounds, today and stuff. So I'm wearing a collared shirt. And listen, signing day is huge. So for Michael and everybody else, Matt, let's take a look at the signing class, and I'll just go down in alphabetical order because that's the way we have them on the website, CaneSport.com. The Wesley Bassane signing is really, really huge. I mean, we've talked for years. You got to keep the South Florida kids home, and really, there were 2 to 3 this year. I mean, if you want to stretch, you can include Earl Little. I don't think they're going to miss Earl Little. I think Earl Little's going to be back. I think I talked about that the last time we did the show. I think Earl Little will be back one day. But to me, Wesley Bassane and Nigel Kelly were the 2 must-gets in Dade County this year, without a doubt. And now they got both of them, Matt. And that is progress any way you look at it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go back in time because you've been talking for 10 minutes. So I want to defend myself. I just want people to understand I didn't show up at the press conference today and Mario Cristobal pointed at me in the audience and said, Matt Shodell has gray hair. That's how you make it sound. Like, no, I hadn't seen Mario because I've been covering, you were at the press conference, the first one, and I was covering it from the house, but it was live streamed.
You got all sentimental. You started talking to him about
I said, listen, Mario, I said, just like back in the day, I'm going to ask a 2-part question. And he said, it's amazing how many people I see that I haven't seen in a while that have gray hair now. That's how it went down. And I said, thank you for the compliment. I think he meant silver hair, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, I'm super, super impressed with the Saints. You had to get they were must-gets, both those guys. Must-gets. They would not have had they certainly would not have had Nigel Leak without if Manny was still here. I mean, Nigel Leak basically said that today,
100% said that, yeah.
Yeah, he basically said that. And Nigel Leak and Wesley, 2 of the top guys in the area. This is going to be the big task for Mario. You want to talk about all the guys that signed. Like, to me, everyone signed. It's done. It's in the past. They're Hurricanes. To me, it's about the future. Like, I just turned the page, and I'm sure Mario does the same thing. Like, you can talk about the guys that signed all you want. I think it's a very, very good class for the limited numbers they got. I think it fills some needs. They need to get offensive linemen badly. They need more linebacker portal help. I was a little surprised Mario said today he wants another defensive end, either in the class or out of the portal. I assume he's talking about Cyrus Moss because they really want that kid. And he's a monster. But, there's not a lot of needs right now on defense because they filled in 4 defensive backs, and they have really good safeties anyway, and 3 of the 4 cornerbacks. They got a really good linebacker now, Wesley Bassane. You'll get a portal linebacker, is my guess, maybe even 2 portal linebackers who can help right away. And on the defensive end now, I think they're really in good shape, especially if they get Cyrus Moss. So bringing a defensive tackle from the portal, I'm really happy with where they're at on defense. What's strange to me on offense is that they really only got. When's the last time you could say they got 2 signees on offense? But how many do they need? You keep saying they need more receiver help. I think the receivers they have are excellent. I think the running backs they have are excellent. They'll get another running back out of the portal for depth. Their quarterback's amazing. Now all he needs is offensive linemen. And
I would get a number 1 receiver. I would get a number 1.
I know you say that. It sounds great. Like, of course you want a number 1 receiver. Of course you want a top receiver. Of course you want a top running back.
Where would they have been last year without Charleston Rambo? Think about that.
Of course you want it, but I'm saying they're okay even without it. Of course
they would have been okay without Charleston Rambo. They wouldn't.
Look, if you have a choice between taking 2 top offensive linemen or getting a receiver and running back, I'm saying get those 2 offensive linemen. Like, I'm just talking about priorities. They're fine at receiver. If you get a great receiver in the portal, great. But you need offensive linemen. You don't need receivers.
I would get a number 1 running back, a number 1 receiver, and 2 starting offensive linemen. That's what I would do.
Sounds great to me if you can get them, but it's not that easy.
You got to find them. You got to get them.
The problem is what you're not recognizing is it's a lot easier to get a transfer guy when he sees the depth chart and you can say to him, here's why you'll start. Right now, you can't do that at running back, and it might be a little hard to do that at receiver just because some of these young guys looked really good last year. You can say, hey, we lost Rambo and Harley. That helps. But these guys aren't stupid. They know that those 3 freshmen last year are going to play a lot this year. They know that Keyshawn Smith's a playmaker, okay? And they know that Xavier Restrepo is ready to explode. So that's 5 guys that this transfer receiver, who you think is going to be this number 1 guy that magically appears on campus, is going to be the starter. There's other opportunities at other schools that pass the ball just as much as Miami and have good quarterbacks.
Let me ask you a question. Let me stop you for a minute and ask you a question. Who was the best receiver on the team last year?
The best receiver, I mean, obviously, is Rambo.
Okay. Do you know what his draft status is? Because I've already looked into this.
I don't think he's a top pick. Middle rounds to later rounds.
Middle to late rounds, correct. Yeah. That's my point. They need everything at Miami right now because this roster is not even close to competing for at the elite level of college football. So I don't think there's any position that we can point to and say they don't need a number 1 guy, except maybe if you want to say that we are committing to Tyler Van Dyke as an alpha number 1 quarterback. I can buy into that based on what we saw this past year. He was playing at a ridiculous level.
Listen, before you keep going on and on, what dreamland are you living in where you think first and second round NFL guys are transferring?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they are Jalen Phillips. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you have to be open-minded about it because this roster is not great anywhere, including receiver right now. There's guys with potential. I mean, Romello Brinson could develop into a guy. Keyshawn Smith could develop into a guy. Jacoby George could develop into a guy.
You're just not being
They're
realistic.
not guys yet, Matt. Do you agree?
You're not being realistic. What's realistic right now for this program, where it is, and this team, okay? Unless you have a magic pill that just brainwashes kids into coming from everywhere.
What do you mean really realistic? We don't know what reality is. We don't know who's going to be in the portal. You're going to sell Mario Cristobal.
You haven't even heard me talk. What do you think I'm talking about realistically? What I'm saying about realistic.
There's no realistic.
Can I finish?
Yeah, but there's no realistic. You don't even know who's going to be in the portal. So
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that. If you let me talk, what you need realistically to win the ACC Coastal is not top tier guys. People call them Jags, just another guy. You need a higher level of a Jag, but guys that are above average that have experience with the returning roster should be good enough for Miami to win the ACC Coastal. The ACC Coastal is extremely
at the next press conference, ask Mario if his goal is to win the ACC Coastal.
Listen, if I ask him in year 1 if his goal is to win the ACC Coastal, he'll say absolutely.
He will never say it. You will never hear him say that.
If I ask him in year 1, is your goal to win the national championship? Realistically, in private, he would say, of course not. We're not going to win the national championship in year 1 here. He's not.
Try.
Of course he's going to publicly, if you ask him, are you going to try to win the national championship in year 1? He'll say, of course. But realistically, he's seen the roster. He knows what's here. You can't magically turn a potato, which, by the way, people thought you were filming with.
I know it looked like it for a minute there.
Some guys were so shaky that he threw up a few times.
I know, but I had cameramen coming around. Like, I'm not even going to go. It doesn't matter. There was a lot going on at Dillard High School today.
You can turn a potato into potato chips and French fries, and I've done both, cutting them up at home, and my kids love them. But you can't turn a potato into a pumpkin. And it takes a couple of years of growing. If you plant a potato in your backyard, guys, it will turn into a pumpkin within 2 years. But it takes 2 years. And that's what I see for this UM program.
but you will never hear Mario Cristobal say he's just.
I don't say what he says. I'm just saying
he's not just trying to win the
truth.
Coastal.
I talk about the truth. I'm not talking about what a coach wishes or wants. I'm just talking about what is realistic, what is really there. And the Coastal's easy to win as long as you add a few pieces, not first and second round guys you're not going to get out of the draft. You get what you need first to win the Coastal, and then you turn the young guys into national championship team. And that's why it's 2 to 3 years down the road. And they can get there with the coaching and the young talent they already have and bringing in more guys and stacking talent of young guys. But out of the portal, you're not winning a national championship in year one out of the portal as much as you want to be the next Michigan State. It's just very difficult to do.
Here's what I'll say. I'll say we don't know who's going to be in the portal yet. For example, a defensive lineman from Oregon went into the portal and was offered by Miami today. There's going to be more. There's going to be constant kids going into the portal for different reasons. And it's a day-to-day fluid situation. And who's in the portal and who Mario is able to get to come to Miami is a total unknown. And I'm not selling that guy short because I know if he, sets his eyes on somebody, I know the effort he's going to put into it. And,
Sure.
I mean, it's like, it's not a known quantity right now. Let's put it that way. But the point I was making is I can't think of too many positions, maybe quarterback, like I said, if you want to anoint Tyler Van Dyke off of his body of work last year, which I'm okay with. I thought he was great. But there aren't many other positions. I mean, including places where they're decent, like receiver and running back, where they have a clear-cut number one dude, like a guy that people have to game plan for, a guy that changes the game, a guy that when you're in the fourth quarter and a tight game, like so many of these games find a way to be, is going to make the play to get you out of there with a victory. And, I think they got to be open-minded about everything. I think they will. All right, so let's get back to Wesley Bissainthe. So great pickup, Matt. He's a linebacker that can play on every down. You don't have to take him off the field because he can cover. At least that's what we saw in high school. Now, I'm assuming that translates to the college game. He doesn't look like a linebacker yet. Okay. He looks like probably a striker right now. He's 201 pounds, but I think within a year, you're going to see Wesley Bissainthe up to 225, 230. I think it's going to be all muscle. I think by the time this guy gets to year 3 of his career, he's going to be an absolute monster, Matt.
It's funny because Roland Smith sort of somehow compared him to Sean Spence, even though I think they're very dissimilar. Sean Spence came in much lighter, much smaller. And Sean Spence was but I think what he's talking about was the instincts and the playmaking, because Wesley has that. Someone asked on the message board today if Wesley is going to be a major impact in year 1. And I said, listen, he needs to get bigger, stronger, and he's fast. So not faster, but bigger and stronger for sure. That the fans love to sort of look at a true freshman and say, oh, he's the answer. And I don't think coaches look at true freshmen like that typically, unless they're, unless, like you said, he's already a 230-pound man. And usually those are the 5 stars, which Miami didn't get any of those yet. So, regardless of star status, I'm just never a big fan of throwing a true freshman out there, especially in game 1, game 2, game 3. I don't know what they're going to do sometimes. If you have better players, if you have no better players, of course. Like this year, I talked a lot of times about the freshmen were better than the older players and they should have been playing. And if no one's better than Wesley Bissainthe, of course he should play. But you have to hope someone's going to be better than a true freshman coming in who's underweight, needs to get stronger. And you're right, he'll be a lot stronger in a year, but we're just going to have to wait and see where he's at, in terms of that when the season rolls around.
Is he a midday? Is he a mid? Will he be here?
You know what? I have the list. I have the list right here. Hold on.
If he is getting here in January, and I can't remember if he
I'm going to look it up right now. Yeah.
But if he is, I'll predict he'll play next year a lot.
Oh, he's going to play. Yeah, he's an early enrollee. He, Jakuri, Nigel Leak, and Kamari are the early ones. So about half.
He'll play
exactly half the class.
He'll play a lot if he comes in, and since he's coming in January. All right, Matt. Let's talk about Jakuri Brown for a minute. I think the fact that Jakuri Brown stuck with Miami through all of this is really quite amazing. I mean, he was recruited by Rhett Lashley, who's no longer here. He doesn't know who his coach is going to be. He doesn't know who his offensive coordinator is going to be. People like to say you're not picking the coaches, you're picking the school. in this case, I think it applies for Ja'Cory Brown. And I really liked the development that I saw from him during the course of the season. He's a good complement to Tyler Van Dyke and Jake Garcia. And I think it's really important for Mario Cristobal to keep Jake Garcia. I think it's really important that he did not run for the woods because Tyler Van Dyke took advantage of his opportunity this year and now has a leg up. I mean, look at all the guys that came to this program. You think back to Vinny Testaverde having to wait for Bernie Kosar to leave, things like that. I mean, there is no reason for Jake Garcia at this point, after 1 year where he got hurt, to bail out on Miami and consider his hope lost here because A, he's one play away from being the quarterback, and B, if Tyler Van Dyke plays this next season the way he played the last, he's going into the draft. Okay, I mean he's already represented by Rosenhaus. He's out of here after next year if he plays at that level again for another season. So very important to start stacking quarterbacks. I thought Ja'Cory Brown sticking with Miami was a big part of today.
What bothers me with Ja'Cory is I don't understand. He was a 4-star. He didn't do well at the Elite 11 because he was working on some technical things and trying to really, sort of show that he can be more of a drop back passer and not the scrambling type quarterback, like a Russell Wilson type. That's sort of how he sees himself eventually. And he's trying to get to that point, right? Because he doesn't have the footwork, he didn't have the technical skills, and he was working on it at the time of the Elite 11, and they pushed him down to a 3-star, and they never reevaluated him when he had an amazing season. He's one of those guys, like there's always some guys that look better in practice than in games. We always talk about Tompkins, right? Kendall Tompkins, was that his name? Or Kimbrel Tompkins? There was a kid a long time ago who was the most amazing practice player you've ever seen. And then you put him in a game, and he was awful. And then there are those guys who maybe don't look so great in practice or in one-on-one passing drills or whatever, but you put him in a game, man, and that guy competes, and that guy, when the adrenaline's going, he's a different player. And that's Ja'Cory Brown. And once he gets down to the consistency of the technical things and gets down to the consistency of looking good in practice, I mean, he's going to be great, I think. He really is. When you think of guys who he reminds me of, I mean, the guy he really reminds me of the most, honestly, is probably Teddy Bridgewater, who was super raw coming out of high school and just sort of developed from there. And there's other comparisons you can make, but that's the one that came to mind for me with Ja'Cory. I think he's got an amazing future, and obviously Tyler Van Dyke's the guy next year. And if, like you said, everything goes well, it's going to be, it could be Ja'Cory's time. He might be the next guy up, which is why he's stuck. A lot of times you see quarterbacks shy away when, oh my gosh, Miami's got this amazing quarterback. I don't have a chance to play. All these guys want to play as freshmen. There's a coaching change. I mean, he's stuck through Miami through it all. The only concern he ever had, and the only reason he ever took another visit, he told me, was simply because he didn't know what the new offense might look like. Obviously Manny Diaz was probably going to be fired, and he wanted to have a backup plan. But he was sold on Miami, and kudos to him for sticking this one out. He still doesn't know who his offensive coordinator is going to be, right. And he doesn't care. He knows what Mario's goal is to run a spread.
I'm already a fan. I like
attacking offense. Listen, this is why Miami only got 2 offensive signees, right? These are guys who are buying in no matter what. They love the program. They love the area. They know it's going to be, they're taking Mario at his word. It's going to be an attacking downfield open spread offense. And they're good with that.
Yeah, man. I think it's awesome. I admire that kid for sticking with it and coming regardless. Couldn't care less who his coach was going to be. I mean, he probably cares, but that wasn't going to impact his decision. Matt, another one that I thought was huge today is Chris Graves, just because I think he's the best DB on the board, with all respect to the other guys that we're going to talk about here. I felt that Chris Graves was the best. And it looked like a little tenuous for a while. Had things not fallen apart at Florida, I think they might have lost Chris Graves to Florida today. But the fact that he stuck with Miami was huge.
Yeah. His coach raves about him. And the question is, I don't know why, but it seems like every time I get excited about a cornerback Miami signs, it just doesn't seem to pan out. They sort of play in year one and they sort of fade, DJ Ivey was supposed to be so good, and Al Blades, year one, looked really good at times. And, you go down the list, and it just seems like the best, other than Tyreek Stevenson recently, the best corners Miami's had have been these little guys like the Trajan Bandy and whatever. And they need to get these longer, guys like Chris Graves that can be the best cornerback, that can be the shutdown cornerback. And I'm excited to see if he can develop I'm also very curious. I mean, T-Rob's going to stick around, but I don't know if DBD is going to stay as the cornerbacks coach or what sort of shakeups they're going to have. But whoever's there, their biggest
I think Rod Chance from Oregon, who is going to come from the Oregon staff and coach cornerbacks. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
But I think T-Rob will stay and coach safeties.
Yeah, that's my understanding too. And T-Rob's always been involved, honestly, with the cornerbacks also. But the bottom line is cornerback is a major, major concern. Like last year on defense, we said our major concern was probably defensive tackle and linebacker. This year, I think cornerback, assuming Tyreek's gone, which it seems like most people think he will be gone, is going to be the big issue. Because what do you have back? Who's the cornerback that's going to stop anybody right now on this team? So they got to get guys ready that are young. And again, you don't love to play these true freshmen, but Chris Graves and Jaden Harris, man, you guys better be ready. And I expect them to go chase in a corner or two in the portal as well. There's a reason they signed 3 cornerbacks, because you don't know who's going to show up and learn the defense and know what to do. And cornerback is such a tough position because not only do you have to be on an island, but you also have to be able to play against the run and be physical enough. Because, offenses will game plan to get to you at that level, on that side, if you can't tackle, if you're not physical enough. So super important, Chris Graves, and the next guy you're probably going to talk about is Jaden Harris. Super important that both of those guys develop, at least one of them develop, because they need it badly.
Jaden Harris was probably the surprise of the day. I mean, I don't know that anybody assumed he was going to be in the class. We knew he was a possibility, but the fact that he did come to Miami, we'll see how good he is and whether we call it a pleasant surprise. But I think you would agree it was a surprise, right?
Yes. Look, he did commit to Manny Diaz the weekend he visited, but then Manny Diaz was fired like the next day. Have you ever, that's got to be a shock. Like, hey, coach, I commit, and then the next day you wake up and like, wait, what happened? My coach who I committed to is gone already. Like, I didn't even have 24 hours to enjoy my commitment. It's a silent commitment. And, Mario T-Rob was quick to call the kid and reassure him, listen, Mario's going to want you. Don't worry about it, blah, 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 blah. But the kid did take that midweek visit last week to Georgia Tech, told us it was 50-50 during that visit, whether he's going to stick with Miami or not. So, silent commitments don't count anyway. And the kid was basically up in the air. So, yeah, I'd say out of all the kids, that was the biggest surprise because, you and I both knew Nigel Kelly was coming. And this kid really was 50-50 headed into this. And the fact that he picked Miami is huge for Miami because, A, he's got a lot of upside. I mean, people consider him like sort of a sleeper diamond in the rough guy. But he's only played cornerback for 2 years. So his ceiling is like super high because most of these cornerbacks who come into college that are 3 stars or 4 stars at major programs, they've been playing cornerback at least since their freshman year, if not earlier, and they sort of understand, how to move their twist their hips and what is expected of them. This kid's really just learning it. So he may have a higher ceiling than a lot of the guys that are already, so quote unquote finished products at cornerback, which I love. I like guys like this where you can sort of mold them and teach them right. A lot of guys are taught bad habits from day one. This kid still can be taught some good habits where he doesn't have to break the bad habits. I like that pickup. I like him a lot. I think it's really good.
Isaiah Horton, I really like, bigger receiver. Probably a D. Wiggins kind of frame, if I dare.
Don't say D. Wiggins. Don't tell fans he's D. Wiggins. Don't say that word.
If I dare compare him to D. Wiggins.
Don't even mention D. Wiggins.
D.
Are you out of your mind?
Catches the ball. Where did D. Wiggins go? Went to, I think, Louis? He went somewhere decent. Somebody took him. Might have been Louisville. I can't remember. But, I like bigger receivers. I think they're important. You can't have all little guys. And, Horton was a guy that the old staff honed in on very early, and he stuck with him. Matt, any thoughts on Isaiah Horton?
I like him a lot too. I mean, again, he's like a more of a physical guy, but also fast enough. Like that's what you want nowadays. You can get the little guys in the slot, but what you really want is a guy who's not only a possession guy where you can make the third down catches over the middle, but a guy who can beat people deep. And he has the ability to do both those things. And it is funny you say D. Wiggins because D. Wiggins should have been great. Like on paper, I remember the first year he was here, whoever the receivers coach was, and it might have been who was it? It might have been Taylor Stubblefield, maybe. Might have been him, but oh no, you know what it was? It was who came from? Oh, Ron Dugans. It was Ron Dugans for sure. Okay, I remember Ron Dugan saying that this kid reminds me of Jerry Rice. Okay, Ron Dugan said that about D. Wiggins. And we all know what wound up happening.
Well, he's just running around out there. He looks great. He just never catches the ball.
Right, and that's what I talk about, where guys look great in practice, and then in the game they disappear. And the same thing happened to Mark Pope. It's like it gets in their head, these two guys. It got in their head to the point where they couldn't catch a pass, where they were thinking too much. And I have a feeling what Miami's going to start letting these receivers do is just play free when they're young. You know, you give them too much. You got to keep the playbook a little simpler for the freshmen. Put them in plays where they know. Like, you have to talk to these guys, communicate. Like, which plays are you comfortable with running? And then you put them in when you know you're going to run those plays. And you do that with Isaiah Horton. You don't overwhelm him. You know, Mark Pope from day one had too much in his head, and he never got past it. If Mark Pope had a limited playbook as a freshman and had success as a freshman, I think it would have had a very different career for him. He was just a little bit mentally fragile. There's some guys where as coaches you have to recognize, like, yelling at them and telling them how bad they are doesn't work. They sort of need to hear how great they are. And that was Mark Pope, and to a lesser extent, D. Wiggins. And I think Mario Cristobal and the staff really know how to work with guys. And it was really great to hear Mario Cristobal say today, toward the end of his press conference, talking about how he recruits kids. He says it's pretty simple. You just think, how would I treat my son? How would I act around my son? And you're not always going to make the right decision for your son, but you know your heart's in the right place when you make every decision. And if it's your son, you're not going to yell at him and berate him and tell him how bad he is. You know, if your son is better when you yell at him, you know, and does things better when you yell at him and give him some forceful reinforcement, if there's such a word, such a term I just made up, forceful reinforcement. I'm going to write that down so I can use that with my kids. I'm going to give them a lot of forceful reinforcement. Then great. But some of these kids, if it's your kid, and listen, Gary, you have 2 kids, I have 2 kids. I have to treat both my kids totally differently. One of them I had to yell at a lot, to the point where he once came to me as a 3rd grader and says, "Dad, you've got a lot of anger management problems," you know. The other one I never yelled at because he wouldn't take it well. And you have to do the same thing with your players. They're not all the same. And it's weird when I hear people say coaches have to treat all their players the same. No coach treats all his players the same. That's not how you coach. You know, you make rules that are the same for every player, but how you teach and how you reinforce are totally different depending on the personalities of every kid. And hopefully, you know, this new staff will sort of recognize that. And I feel real bad for Pope and Wiggins, because if they had been treated differently early in their careers, I don't think they would have had these mental problems, which really were what caused the drops. They weren't physical problems. They were mental problems that caused them to just fail time and time again in games.
Well, hopefully Isaiah Horton is D. Wiggins physically, but catches the football. If he's that, he'll make a big contribution to this program over the next, I'll say, like all the kids do, 3 to 4 years that he takes his talents to South Beach. All right. Nigel Kelly's up next, Matt. We've spoken to him a little bit. So great time for me to just fit in this question from Blurgy. What are our thoughts on regulating NIL? I don't think they can really regulate NIL. I think the players have the right to cut whatever deals they're going to cut, but they also have the responsibility to, when they sign a contract, live up to the deal. And that was the big thing that came up in the Dan Lambert situation, where he gave every player on the team $6,000 this year, $500 a month. And their responsibility is, I saw the contract. The contract was very, very, very direct and to the point. You are required to make a couple social media posts a month about American Top Team, and you have to appear at 3 events over the course of the year. 3 personal appearances that are, that we'll schedule, at convenient times or whatever. That's what the contract was. You sign that contract, you have an obligation to fulfill the terms of the contract. If you do that, the NCAA doesn't need to regulate it. The NCAA doesn't need to get involved. It's a relationship between the company that's doing the deal and the player. And if the player reneges on that deal, it's between the player and the company. The only way there's a problem is if the company doesn't expect the player to do anything for the money. Then the NCAA is going to get involved. So in this case, there were clear-cut contracts. But I will tell you that I have seen situations where players, they sign contracts and they pretend like they didn't sign the contract. I've seen it all this year. And I think that the answer isn't regulating NIL. I think the answer is educating the players on what a contract is and what their responsibilities are if they do an NIL deal. Matt, you have anything to add to that little soliloquy I just gave?
Yeah, listen, players should get paid for, whatever. Like, this is, it's the United States of America, right? Like, nobody's working for free and putting their heart on the line for free when the company's making billions of dollars on them. But with that said, like, I think this is just the stupidest system. Like, if you want to call your players amateur, but they can make as much money as they want, if you want to say that the school can't be involved in any of the NIL stuff, setting it up for them or any of that stuff, like, it would have been so much easier if they just let schools treat them like professional athletes, which is basically what they are now. Like,
what they're doing anyway, right?
Right. Like, here's your salary. Go get yourself advertising deals. Instead, they made it this crazy system now where UM can be investigated because a player didn't fulfill his obligation. I mean, the whole thing is so ridiculous. Like, just do it the way the NFL does it. They're professional players. They're making money for the university, but God forbid you call them a professional. So let's make it look like it's not really professional. They have to make their money this way, and they have to send out a tweet a month. Like, are you kidding me? Like, the whole thing is so ridiculous.
I mean, they're not going to let schools do it, but like everything else in college football, schools are going to do it. Like, what's the difference between a school, between Texas saying we're going to give every offensive lineman $50,000 and Texas getting a car company, or I didn't see who did the deal in Texas, but or getting somebody, some booster or something through his company to give every offensive lineman.
Basically, you're just going around what I think is
right.
to do. Yeah. Right. So just make it real. Like, just make it what it's supposed to be.
They can't have schools paying the freight. Like, that would be a disaster.
I think
not every school has the same budgets, Matt. You can't.
This is worse.
That would be a disaster.
Yeah, look, they give out scholarships. I mean, the whole thing to me, I don't know what the answer is. I'm not that smart, but I know this isn't a good answer. This NIL stuff is going to get schools in trouble. It's going to get kids in trouble. It shouldn't be that way. These kids should be able to make money for one advertising spot for this much money, not having to send out this every month or that every month and signing these contracts and that deal and this deal. And will the school approve my deal? Is it a conflict of interest? And like, the whole thing's just ridiculous. Just let the kids make the money that they should make and move on.
In the meantime, Tripp here is he's bragging to everybody a little bit. He says he's 52 and he has no gray hair on his head. I guess it's possible. I mean, I would ask to see his driver's license, quite frankly.
I'm sure he's bald. He's definitely bald. Anybody who has no picture in their profile means they're bald. So I agree. There's no gray hair on his head.
It's very suspicious, right? I mean, he's making a boast that he has no gray hair at 52, which is kind of hard to imagine. And and he's not showing his picture. So I don't know, man. Tripp, we'll let you have this one, but it's highly suspicious. Anyway, Matt, back to our signee list. So Nigel Kelly, we already kind of talked about. I think he's the best player in Florida. Just a massive, massive get. I think he takes this signing class to a much higher level. Kamari Rogers, Matt, is a defensive back with 4 stars. They say he's 6'1". I'm not sure he's really 6'1". He's had some health problems and all that. Miami stuck with him, and he stuck with Miami through this whole thing. Any parting thoughts on Kamari Rogers?
Listen, I know people hate my stupid stories, but I'm going to tell one about Kamari. So Kamari, he and his dad wanted to see Miami, but they couldn't get down here until I guess it was Saturday of the last weekend for the dead period. And they just had a very quick visit. Or was it actually? No, they got super late Saturday. I think they arrived at midnight, and they came on campus Sunday morning, and they left Sunday night, Sunday afternoon. They were here for like 4 hours on campus. They just wanted to meet Mario Cristobal. And I don't know if you guys sort of know how we do things, but after a visit, we always want to catch up with the kid. You're not allowed to talk to the kids on campus. So we do it over the phone. And I texted, Kamari doesn't really talk a lot. He's sort of a quiet kid. So I've been talking to his dad a lot, who also was his coach in high school. Dad's super nice, Marcus Rogers. So I texted Dad, is this a good time to talk or whatever? And he says, call me in 10. I'm in TSA. They were at the airport on their way out. So 10 minutes later, I call him. He doesn't answer. And he texts me back, give me a minute, ! Like I'm bothering him. And then he sends me a picture of the back of some guy. And I should get on my phone and put it on the screen. I'm going to do that, actually. He texted me a picture of the guy in front of him in the TSA line. Like, he's still in the TSA line. I guess he didn't realize that 10 minutes already passed by. So do you want to see that picture, Gary, or you don't care?
I don't. I mean, you can put
all right. It was a very funny picture.
I mean, some people might care. Go ahead, flash.
Oh, all right. You got to give me a minute though, because I got to find his number and then.
Well, in the meantime, I'm shutting up because Tripp here is saying that I should let you talk. So I'm
well, then guess what? I've been looking at that. People are already saying, no, never mind. Matt's an idiot, and don't.
Well, then he follows up and says, "Oh, after hearing Matt."
Yeah. So don't let me talk.
Tripp's the man. That was funny.
All right.
That was only like 30 seconds later.
And then, by the way, Marcus also didn't like the picture that we had on Kamari in the story, so he sent me another picture. Okay, here's the picture that. Oh, here he goes. He says, I called him 10. He literally says, call me in 10. Oh, he says here. This is exactly what he says. I don't want to show his phone number. How do I not show his phone number? Hopefully I don't show it. I don't want to show his number, but which way do I go here? All right, so I don't want to show his number. In TSA line,
we get the idea.
No, hold on. In TSA line, give me 20. I called him in 20 minutes, and he says, come on, bro. Oh, I can't get this the right way. Come on, bro. Can you take that off the screen, Gary, so I can do this?
He says, come on, bro, chill. Yeah.
I'm going to call you. And then he sends me this. That's the picture he sends me. That's what he sends me.
Oh, man. That's awesome.
How do you not love a guy like that? He says, call me.
I try to get you to chill, too.
He says, in TSA, give me 20. I call him, and he says, come on, bro. Chill. I'm going to call you. I called him in 20. And then he sends me a picture of the guy in front of him in the TSA line. Like, who does that?
So did you chill?
Of course. I waited for him to call me. And
if the next time I'm in a TSA line, you know how there's some of those guys.
And then there's like the photo we ran in the story, so he sends me this photo to run with it instead. So
yeah, that's awesome. But I got like I got this pet peeve, and that's like when you got people in front of you in line in different places and stuff, and you could see their crack. I mean, like that's a little bit like to me. Like,
well, that's not
so if next time I'm in that situation, if I take a picture of that,
can you not
can I use that to get you to chill? Because that was effective for Marcus. It worked. He sent you the picture of the overweight guy in the TSA line, and that got you to chill. So. Who does that? Marcus, I'm down, so I'm going to try to find my own picture.
Listen, here's what really was going on. Marcus was like super annoyed. They had this horrible. They got in at midnight. They had a whirlwind trip. Now he's stuck in the TSA line for an hour. Like he wasn't mad at me, but he was just. You know how you get pissed when you're in a line like that? It's just like no matter who you're with or who you're talking to, it's like God. You're just annoyed. So anyway,
all right, well,
I found it very funny.
Fortunately, this is a tight signing class because otherwise I think we'd be here trying to get through this for about 5 hours. But Markeith Williams, Matt, some people think he's a 4-star. Rivals has him as a 3-star. What I see when I turn on the tape is a physical safety, a guy that brings it. And if he doesn't become a starter, he certainly will be a help on special teams.
Yeah, listen, I love Markeith as a player. The only weird thing with him, which I can't get a handle on, like he just never would talk to us during his recruitment. So I don't know what his personality is like. Like all the other 7 guys in this class, I can tell you for sure, they are guys who are very well-spoken. They're hard workers. They are driven. When they speak with a purpose, and they talk about the future. Like they already see the future, and they know they're going to be great, and they know this program's going to be great. And the only caveat with Markeith is I just don't know him. Like, I haven't been able to get to know him. I think I did maybe 1 5-minute interview with him, like way, way, way back, but like even before June, maybe. Other than that, he'd respond to text of like 1 word. So listen, amazing athlete. He should be an amazing player, but I don't have a sense for that drive and what he sees for the future for himself, for the team. So, like, I don't want to speak on that at all, but on paper, yeah, he has all the measurables you want in the world, and his coach wouldn't talk to us either, by the way. So, guess who his coach is, Gary?
Kennard Lang, unbelievable.
Kennard Lang. I covered Kennard Lang. I literally texted Kennard. I'm like, Kennard, I covered you, when you were in college, and he still like didn't really want to talk to us. Like, I guess he didn't talk in college either that much. So, sometimes the guys who didn't talk in college don't like to talk when they're all grown up, so to speak. So, so I just don't have a sense. Like, I don't have a sense from Kennard about the kid. I don't have a sense from Markeith about his personality and how he wants to fight when he gets to Miami, if he wants to play in year one or redshirt in year one or what his goals are. Like, it'd be nice to know all that stuff, Marquise. So in your next life, maybe when you're a recruit again, look us up. Don't send me pictures from the TSA line, but talk to us.
Matt, Miami has the number 63 recruiting class in the country right now, largely because it's only 8 guys. They don't.
That means nothing. You have to re-rank it by stars. That's all.
Yeah, they didn't get enough points. Now, if you go by star ranking, 3.5 average star ranking,
good.
You start going up a lot. And Miami ends up as the number. Looks like about 14, 15.
Yeah, and Jacare should be a 4-star. Some people probably think Nigel could be a 5-star. Isaiah Horton should be a 4-star. It should be even high. They have basically, to me, they have a top. In my mind, they have a top 10 class just in terms of quality, not quantity.
Right. So no concern there. All right, let's finish polishing off some of these questions. Which coastal team has a better quarterback than TBD?
None.
Nobody. No argument there. James Welford, Miami Hurricanes. Okay, original name. Sorry, Miami Hurricanes. Mario said he's rebuilding. Okay, great. Yeah, to Mario, rebuilding is trying to win the national title. Okay, they're obviously not winning the national title every year. They're probably most certainly not winning it this year. Don't think that he's not trying to win the national title. He is. There's no doubt about it. And who would have thought, Cincinnati would have been the team they were this year, or Michigan would have been the team they were. You just never know. You're always trying to be the best you can be. Then you can go at it with no regrets and, see where it takes you. All right, Aaron Frazier saying the wide receiver group has a chance to be special. I'm capping. I'm not capping. I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. Capping, Aaron Frazier. What I am saying is
capping means you're lying.
Okay. No, I'm not lying. I'm saying there is talent in the receiver room. There's no question about it. There might even be elite talent in the receiver room. I'm saying we do not know that yet. And I am saying this team does not have a proven number one receiver because the proven number one receiver from last year is out of here going into the draft, where in this wonderful receiver room that we have, he is going to be drafted in the 5th or 6th round.
I mean, that
is what I am saying. I am saying this roster is not a great roster. And yes, maybe 2 years from now, Romello Brinson is a first-round draft pick. Maybe 2 years from now, Keyshawn Smith is a first-round draft pick. Maybe. As we sit here today on December 15th, 2021, this team does not have a number one receiver for next year. Matt, I grabbed one in the portal. That's all I was trying to say. I wasn't trying to offend anybody. Listen, look at last year. Had they not, like I said, had they not gone and gotten Charleston Rambo, they might have won 5 games. Okay, he made a lot of plays.
Look, it's hard to say that because those balls would have gone to Restrepo, Keyshawn. Maybe I think Jacoby George is going to be amazing. Actually, out of the 3 true freshmen, even though he played the least, I think he's going to be the best of that group. But listen, the balls would have just gone to other guys. I'm not going to say they would have won 5 games. Someone else might have. There's always going to be a number one receiver, for the most part. So someone else just would have been the number one receiver. I think Xavier Restrepo probably could have caught 70 balls this year if there was no Rambo on the team. So, if you just take Rambo out and assume those balls were all incomplete, they win 5 games. But, that's not really how it works.
Yeah, I'm not worried about offending anybody, at any position in the program right now. If I'm Mario, and I don't even have to say if I'm Mario because this is what Mario's doing, he is going to go out and he is going to get the best players that he can get. And that's what he should be doing. That's his job. That's why he's paid $8 million a year. And, he's going to do it. You don't have to worry about it. He's going to do it, and he's going to be working when everyone else is sleeping. Those are givens with Mario Cristobal.
There will not be a lack of effort at all. I mean, this is the difference. Mario will kill him. He will die. He literally will die trying. I'm worried if it doesn't work out that Mario will literally die from trying so hard and having it not work out. It has to work because Mario's health could be on the line. That's how hard this guy works.
Game over is my man. He's 100% with me, which is good.
He meant Matt. He made a mistake.
Love you, game over. But anyway, Matt, I think we've summed it up pretty good. Do you have any parting thoughts on today?
Yeah, I mean, people seem to like my collared shirt. They want to know what happened to my. It's not Izod's. Okay, someone said Izod. I would never stoop that low. Okay, never would I stoop to Izod. That's like Manny Diaz level shirt. Okay, I wear Mario Cristobal level shirt, which is Lacoste. Okay, and I'm not wearing Lacoste today because it's a special occasion. I actually dressed up because I did a Mario Cristobal. This is what I wore to the Mario Cristobal press conference. Just like Mario, I did not change after the press conference. I'm out on the road recruiting with Gary here, and I'm wearing the same thing. That's all that happened. So that there you go. Vineyard Vines instead of Lacoste. You get a whale instead of and it's not a gator. It's a crocodile. Okay, so you got a whale instead of a crocodile. That's all. Different animal, different species, different shirt. Definitely not Izod.
All right. Well, I promised my wife that I would have dinner with her this evening, which is not something that's happened very often in quite some time here. The way this is all
that's not cursing the coach.
The way this has all gone over the last month or so. So I'm going to honor that commitment, and I am going to sign my letter of intent with my wife and go have dinner. And so Matt, great job as always on our recruiting coverage. I hope everybody enjoyed it.
This was a fun early recruiting thing because it actually worked out okay. I think listen, signing day could have gone a lot worse than this 10 days ago. When you thought 10 days ago when Mario took the job, if you saw the end result, you say, I'll definitely take that. So Miami fans should be super happy. You all know that I'm an eternal pessimist, love being unhappy. I am relatively happy compared to my normal state of unhappiness, and you all should be too. This was a great outcome from where it could be. And there's more to come, we got guys, Kevin Coleman, Cyrus Moss, Jaleel Skinner, even as a possibility, maybe Jeffrey Emba. Like, this isn't over the early signing period. And then you get right into February, you get into transfer portal. Like, this is going to be a fun ride. Like, this is not over, people. Like, don't go to sleep and check back on the site 3-4 months from now. Like, this could be moving along in the next week with some more people coming on board. And then after that. So it's going to be really good.
All right, so for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you for joining us on CaneSport right now, and enjoy reading all the recruiting coverage on the website today. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.